It is now my pleasure to turn the presentation over to our speaker, Jim Coltharp. Jim, I'm going to work on getting the slide deck up. Until then, the show is all yours.
Very well, and thank you, Barb. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your patience. My name is Jim Coltharp. I'm the founder and president of the Keep Pressing On Project. I'm thankful for the opportunity to share my thoughts on this very timely topic regarding how we can grow through challenges and working remotely during this time of the coronavirus. Thank you to the Northern Virginia Chamber for initiating this excellent series, and I hope it's been helpful for you. And I hope today's discussion is helpful for you. I want this to be useful. I want it to be relevant. I am very thankful that you would trust me with your time. And I think that I don't need to remind you of the context. I think you're very well aware of the exceptional uncertainty, even the pain that many of you are feeling. And so I'd like for this to be helpful. I've tried to be observant as we have moved from anxiety about the virus to fear about the economy, fear about the volatility in the stock market for those who are affected there. More so, the fear of businesses closing and working from home and what that means and when will it end. And we're going to talk about all those things in just a bit. I want to be encouraging for you in this time. And as Barb mentioned, we're going to have a couple of Q&A times where I want to be able to talk more specifically about some of the things that will be hopefully useful for you. And I'd like to share with you how I'm thinking about this as a business coach. I want to be constructive. There are so many things swirling around. There's so many people who are working, but getting ready to work in a new way. And as we go through this time and we go through this period, we're all going to need to become accustomed to working in a new way. Many of the habits that we're starting to develop while working remotely are going to become part of our new world. And so I want to talk about that and try to be helpful in giving you some vision on that, but at the same time, be realistic about the fact that many of you are not working. Many businesses are closed, and that brings a whole different level of uncertainty. As of last night, we had a very large stimulus package that passed in the Senate. What does that mean? It's very, very confusing, even to someone who is accustomed to looking at legislation and policy issues. It's very confusing, and it will take some time to sort out. But what does it mean? And I think that all of these things are going to be important to determine where does it fit in all of the things going on? What can it do? How can it help you? How can it not help you? I'm not going to dwell on that today, but that adds to even more of the uncertainty. I want to help you be realistic. I want to help you be very clear on what the facts are in terms of what you might be able to do going forward. Part of the greatest pain that we all feel right now is uncertainty and what we don't know. It's a very difficult time. Up until a couple of hours ago, it was very, very gray outside, and it was even darker yesterday. But it's not over. It's not over. So I'd like to work with you today to help you go forward, and I'd like to help you rise to meet a new future. Last October, I stepped away from my corporate role with Comcast. I'd been there for 22 years and stepped into the second half of my life and career. I didn't intend to start a new business. In fact, I never even thought about it. I did work to get better. I did pursue an opportunity to keep developing new skills and to set out to develop a champion's mind. I did set out to pursue the desires of my heart to focus very significantly on helping other people. And I stepped into this area through what some folks may consider an unusual path. I'm thankful to have enjoyed a lot of success as a competitive ballroom dancer. And together, my partner and I, we've experienced training, improving, new challenges, competition, awareness, seeing the best opportunities, and execution. During the same time, I began my pursuit over several years in training as an executive coach. And I'm now helping businesses and teams and leaders in the area of peak performance, how to deliver their best in the key moments when they need their best. This is a crucial time as we all learn to work together in a new way. In the confusion surrounding COVID-19, this is a key moment that will test all businesses. Let me be clear, I realize this is very serious and that we at least have several difficult weeks ahead. I don't want to be overly upbeat in this discussion, and I don't want to overlook the very real pain and deep struggles that companies, employees, families are all experiencing because of the virus, as well as the fundamental disruptions. Having said that, this is a time when we can all be thinking about how can I develop and improve in what I do? How can my team get better? How can I lead others more effectively? We'll need to come together. We'll need to become stronger and to develop a different vision. If we become extremely intentional about that, we can become part of the solution. Those with great culture and strong teams with insightful and equipped leadership, they may shine and outperform others, while other businesses may begin to fall behind. How can we be part of that first group? People are confused, as I mentioned a moment ago, and they're fearful. They ask, is my business going to close temporarily? Is my business if it's already closed, how long is this going to last? Will my business now be able to become everything that I'd hoped? What if we have to shut down? How will this affect my family? What financial steps do I have to take to be more secure in the near future? What if someone on my team receives bad news from a doctor? How will I be able to help them? I'm a professional coach, and I help and lead businesses, but I lead through asking questions. I don't expect you to answer them right away, but I want these to help make you start to think about the important questions that you might need to consider to ask yourself about your business and your situation. Hopefully, this will benefit your team. You can probably add 100 of your own questions. They're the things that bombard you as your head hits the pillow. They may jolt you at 2:28 in the morning. But those are real questions, and I suggest that you might want to consider writing them down. It's very helpful to have them on paper and not in your heart. And as maybe we start to think about some of the topics today, hopefully that will help you answer some of those. Now that we're all being tested, let's consider together how we're facing situations that we probably never imagined. What specific tests are your businesses facing? How do you feel about that test right now? Do you feel that you have a clear view? Is everything spinning? Do you need help? Maybe more help than you presently have available. You'll begin to hear more and more an assumption and an expectation that the world is slowing down. That's unavoidable for some types of businesses, especially those that have a traditional model or a storefront. But other businesses are trying to use this time to accelerate. They're going to rise to meet new demand. Clorox and up until about 20 minutes ago, Zoom, we're experiencing that increase. CVS is now hiring furloughed employees from other companies. Some businesses must grow in order to survive, but growth isn't the only thing. How do you get better? How do you become relevant or stay relevant now that the world is changing? This is a time to challenge the courage and vision of our leaders, as well as the strength and hopes for all of us. It's going to test the health of small, medium, and large companies in terms of their ability to move quickly. How healthy and agile is your business? We're about to get tested deeply. And if you see gaps, which is completely normal, how can you go about helping to fill those gaps? What are your advantages? For small businesses, they may not have all the resources, but they do have an opportunity to be agile. This is why we have a Chamber of Commerce. They have additional sources of advice, of information, and other ways to serve companies. Please don't fail to ask questions when you have a need. So let's begin to talk about building strong teams. Great leaders understand what each individual needs to be effective and to maximize their results. This means they need to be relational. They need to be spending time familiarizing themselves with the team, their primary and natural strengths and interests versus their lesser strengths. Teams are able to perform at their best when they're working under conditions that allow their greatest strengths to yield success. And in order to understand what these needs are, leaders must be relational. Leaders must know each individual on their team in a personal way, not just a professional way. Sometimes it can be as simple as asking, "How are you?" and asking that question in a variety of settings. When you look at your team, what different strengths do you see? How are your individual members each unique, and what do they bring? Depending on what they bring to a challenge, what do they need in order to be productive? What are their likely obstacles, and how can you help them meet them? In light of your strengths as a leader, what other strengths do you need to build around you in order to create a strong team with energy that lasts? This is especially important right now. During these challenges, everyone needs help. What kind of help do you need? What kind of help does your team need? And what does your team need from you as a leader? Team members generally understand their role best. The leaders then should listen to their input as to what they need to put forward in their best work. This could include training. It can include software and technology. It may be flexible hours that enable a healthy home life, especially right now. But what many people need right now is not one more list of things to do. They need compassion, whether it's in a crisis or not. Leaders often overlook the importance of this. The focus tends to be on how individual projects are coming along or the quality of each team member's productivity. But the mindset of each team member, including the leader, is a key element in how well your team will collaborate. As the figure that each member of the team looks to for guidance, the leader has a great deal of responsibility in showcasing strong emotional intelligence and emotional strength. The leader must earn the trust of a team. The leader also must demonstrate a priority of the company's mission over the advancement of his or her personal agendas. Great leaders consistently act to put the success of the shared mission before their own personal interests. This will lead to a standard of excellence, and as a leader, this is your responsibility. A leader cannot expect realistically that a standard's going to be set and effective when they don't follow it. Another reason that this often doesn't happen is because the standard isn't clear, or it may be too long unspoken. In fact, I'd argue that the leaders should view themselves as part of the team and share in the collaborative experience in all ways. From the team's perspective, members generally want to feel needed, that their work directly evaluates the mission or contributes to the mission. Does each member have a clear purpose and a way to communicate to this and contribute to the shared mission? Do they have what they need to carry out that contribution? And as the wheel of the team's activity begins to turn faster and faster, each member is going to become more assured that the group needs them. Finally, let's talk about trust. I don't want to step on any toes, but let's face it, we all can do some work on trust. This is one of the most important elements of emotional energy for a team, It's at the center of working relationships. Teams that trust each other can work more efficiently than those that don't. Trusting leaders don't need to micromanage and can focus on their own goals, the big picture, while their team focuses on their respective roles. Trusting teams generally have lower stress levels, even compared to other teams in similar experiences, because the team members feel more comfortable. They feel supported in their work environment. This is especially true when members are using their greatest strengths. Team members and leaders collaborate rather than compete. They demonstrate a positive view of the future rather than worry. Much of this goes back to being relational. Leaders who are relational with their team are more likely to and more able to trust their team. It's a big barrier to overcome, and it's an important one, but it is surmountable. It requires a commitment and repeated actions by both leaders and team members. It's easier to say than to do, especially for businesses and teams in which their practices have not shown this normally in the past. Employee incentives also have to match these intended outcomes. Employee incentives have to drive team members to act in a trustworthy manner. We talked earlier about strong teams and trust, and I'd like to revisit that for a moment. With strong teams, when working remotely, where trust is already present, it's going to make the teams work much smarter, and their work is going to be much more powerful. Where trust is weak or absent, work activities that might otherwise pass as acceptable are going to become difficult, they're going to become inconsistent, and they're going to begin to struggle. I'd like to share a story about visualizing the value of a team and trusting a team during a crisis. I've been blessed to serve with some great men and some great leaders. One of those in particular was Mr. Ralph J. Roberts. He was the founder and first chairman of Comcast. By the mid-1990s, Comcast was a medium-sized company, maybe a large company, certainly not anything close to what it's become. But at that time, in 1991, the company's offices burned to the ground in Center City, Philadelphia. Everything, customer records, data, other documents, everything was gone. Many years later, I was thankful to be able to attend Mr. Roberts' memorial service, and a story was told about how he handled that day. The story was told by Dick Vermeil. He was the former coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. He also happened to be the neighbor of Mr. Roberts and Suzanne. And that night, Coach Vermeil and his wife were supposed to have dinner with the Roberts. Mr. Roberts had a wonderful habit of making sure that he was home every night to have dinner with his family. And so Coach Vermeil called him in the afternoon and he said, "Ralph, I am so sorry. I saw the news. You must be, full with activities. So I know we're supposed to have dinner, but let's put it off. We'll come another night." Mr. Roberts answered Coach Vermeil and he said, "Oh no, come on over. My team, they're doing everything that they need to do. Brian and everyone else, they're doing exactly what they have to think about right now. And if they need me, they'll call me. So let's go ahead and have dinner." Let's not miss the message in here, or the lesson in here. He trusted his team even when his business was burning to the ground. He let the people do their job. In a crisis, we must learn to trust one another. And if we don't, we're going to fail to be able to respond to that crisis well. I think by now we understand that the situation surrounding COVID-19 is extremely serious. A lot more serious than I believe many of us had initially anticipated. Small and medium businesses and those who work for them in particular have been affected. They're causing disruptions that we haven't seen for many, many, many years. Some of your team members may have young children now out of school who require significant time and attention. Others may have elderly parents or relatives or friends, neighbors who now have special needs. Whatever the circumstances, What your team members require first and foremost now is respect and understanding. They're confused, they're apprehensive. The last thing they need is another list of things to do. What they are looking for from you as a leader is care. I encourage leaders to use this time to demonstrate genuine care and compassion and a willingness to help. I talked earlier about asking, how are you? That's an important question right now. For the leaders listening in, you can understand and you can make a plan. This period is going to be defined by measuring your risks, preparing contingencies, and none of us know what this situation is going to look like a month from now, even a week from now. But faced with the crisis and the challenge of adapting to new conditions, companies are either going to get better or they're going to fall back. We have to make plans flexible and adapt in order to get better. This is a time when teams need to work together to get better. How can they prepare to do that? How can they make the most of this period? So in making a plan, I'd suggest considering first, what are your goals? I'm sure you do that anyway. Your goals are probably the same as they were before, but this is really important. How you're going to accomplish those goals is going to change. Your culture, your values, whatever they are going to come to the surface. Your key strengths, as we talked about earlier, are going to rise, and you will have an opportunity to use those. This is a tool that if you're sitting out there as one of my clients, it's probably in your near future. And I use a stack of cards with different values. There are about 25 or 30 of them. They go from anything from loyalty to justice to creativity to honor to relationships, honesty, skill, community, knowledge, a whole bunch of different values. And you can find something like this if you Google core values and you will find a list of 25, 30, 40 core values. Here's my point. In a crisis, you need to be thinking about what are the most important values for your team and for your company. Do you know? So out of that stack, I ask my clients to think about, okay, what are your top 6? What are your top 6? And then once you rule out all the others and you have 6, what's the one? What's the one thing that you are going to hold on to when everything else has fallen? When the place burns down, when you are home and everything is closed and you have no other option, what's the one thing? Mr. Roberts showed trust. What are you showing? And it's really important to be very clear in your thinking about that.